Plagiarism. What it is, how to avoid it. Okay, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is presenting someone else's ideas or work as if it is your own. You must cite your sources. If you don't, you are plagiarizing, and that's a very big no-no. Why it's bad. Okay, so first, readers must be able to examine for themselves the sources that a writer marshals in arguing his or her case. Citations are necessary for conducting informed debate. Second, those of us who make our livings from words and ideas get pretty ticked off if someone presents our ideas as his or her own. Citations are necessary for giving credit where credit is due. Presenting other writers' ideas as your own is theft. Third, it is dishonest to present someone else's words or ideas as your own. In academia, where words and ideas are deeply valued, lifting phrases and ideas is fraud. Fourth, if you present words and ideas of published authors as your own, you are gaining an unfair advantage over your classmates who are honestly and often painfully extracting words and ideas from their own brains. If you plagiarize, you are cheating both yourself and your classmates. And if the ethics haven't convinced you, there are some nasty consequences for plagiarizers. UNM instructors have the authority to impose a grade penalty up to an F for the course and are obligated to report plagiarism to the Dean of Students, who may impose further sanctions, including suspension or outright expulsion from the university. See the Pathfinder for more information about university policies regarding academic dishonesty. I'll show you. Okay, so here's the Pathfinder, and if you go to Policies, Student Code of Conduct, let me make that a little bigger, Matters Subject to Disciplinary Action 2.4, Academic Dishonesty, including but not limited to dishonesty in quizzes, tests, or assignments, claiming credit for work not done or done by others. So that's the plagiarism, hindering the academic work of other students, misrepresenting, okay, so some other stuff that is not plagiarism, but you don't want to be doing that. And then if you go to the grievance procedure, it has a whole section on what happens to you if you are caught plagiarizing, academic dishonesty. So you can take a look at that if you're interested. Okay, but better than to have to see what will happen to you if you do it is to make sure that you avoid doing it. All right, so how do you avoid plagiarism? 1. Do not lift text verbatim without placing it in quotations or indented in single space. I'll show that to you in a second, and citing it. So it's got to be clear that you know that it's someone else's words and that your reader knows it as well. Second, do not use other people's ideas, even if paraphrased, even if from the internet, without attribution. So that means you have to cite ideas. Do not fabricate your references. False attribution is considered academic dishonesty and carries the same punishment as plagiarism. And finally, properly cite your sources as you reference them in the text. Including the source in your references section is not enough. Okay, so what does that mean, citing it in the text? Let's see. So the economics department has put together a style guide, and you can go to it. Let's go ahead and go to it. Let me just show you one other thing. It says, read it now. It's required for this week, and you'll need it for this week's quiz. So I'm gonna walk you through the minimum that you should know for the quiz this week. Oops. Okay. So there's the Econ style guide. Where is this? We're in the Econ homepage, undergraduate program, Econ style guide. Okay. So let's open it up. All right, and this actually is what I just walked you through. All right, how to avoid plagiarism. Okay, finding sources I'm going to talk about in the next PowerPoint. And okay, so what do we have? Maybe you've heard of the Chicago Style Manual. These guidelines and a few of the examples are drawn from the Chicago Manual of Style online. The style is typical in economics, manuscripts, and published articles, although each journal has its own quirks and requirements. parenthetical references rather than footnotes or endnotes are the norm in economics, and you should use them for course papers. Okay, so parenthetical reference is also called in-text citations. So let me show you what they look like, and then I'll go to some of the rules. So according to Francisco Rivera Batiz, 1999, average hourly wages are higher for documented immigrants relative to undocumented immigrants. Okay, so here's an idea, here's a finding. We're attributing it to this guy, and we're giving the, in parentheses, the year. And what that means is that later on under the references, I'll have the complete citation, the complete article and everything that came from. If there's two people, okay, this is Monks and Robinson, same thing, year in parentheses, and this says that Monks and Robinsons do something, they estimate wage equations separately for men and women and find that blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's those two examples. Even more typical is just to make a statement and then put the author's name and the date in the parentheses. So this one says mothers of infants face larger wage penalties than mothers of school-age children. Anderson et al., 2003. All right, so let's see what these rules are. Okay, so it says, as you cover ideas and findings from different sources, identify them by authors' names and the year of publication. If your narrative uses the author's names, you need only provide the year of publication in parentheses. So that's what you saw in these two examples, and here you saw the name and the year. The parenthetical reference belongs inside the sentence, which means that the period goes after. Okay. Two authors, list them both, Monks and Robinson. Three or more authors, list as first author et al. Okay, so that's the Anderson et al. Et al. Means and others. The italics denote that the phrase is not English. Okay, so it's Latin, so we put it in italics. And the al dot is an abbreviation for alia, thus the period. All right, so this is whatever. This is like kind of arcane, but this is what we do. So you use the italics and the period after the al, and then you can see that it's done right there. So those are the basics of in-text citations. Now, here's some more that you can look at, but I think that that's not really necessary for you right now. Okay, so here's the thing about quotes. If you want to use the author's exact words, and you should really do this sparingly, you should really do this only when the phrase is particularly well written. So you put them in quotes, and you also have to provide the page number. So here's the Monks and Robinson again, 2000. Conclude that since experience, seniority, rank, and tenure status account for the lion's share of wage differences, quote, as women and minorities achieve parity with white males in experience, seniority, and promotion, the aggregate gender and racial gap should continue to narrow. And that's page 670. Now you can argue, is that really beautifully written? I don't know. Perhaps that should have been paraphrased. Here's a better example of something that you might want to quote. It's long. So if you want to use verbatim text of 3 lines or more, do not use quotation marks. Instead, indent on both sides, like it is here, and provide the citation with the page number directly following. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you because I think it's kind of interesting. The rent-seeking problem can be summarized as follows. And rent-seeking is when people are they're lobbying government to get money rather than doing something productive. If the market mechanism is suspect, the inevitable temptation is to resort to greater and greater intervention, thereby increasing the amount of economic activity devoted to rent-seeking. As such, a political vicious circle may develop. People perceive that the market mechanism does not function in a way compatible with socially approved goals because of competitive rent-seeking. A political consensus therefore emerges to intervene further in the market. Rent-seeking increases and further intervention results. That's Kruger, 1979, 302. That would be page 302. Okay, so that's the in-text citations, the parenthetical citations. And then what you're going to have on the bottom is a references section. And we already talked about how you call it references, not bibliography, not works cited. We call it in economics references. And this just shows how you would do each one. You're going to be doing articles for your paper, so let's just look at those. It's last name, first name, year, article title in quotes, journal title in italics, the volume, the number in parentheses, colon page numbers. All right, so you can follow this. It's just following some instructions. So here's one. That's embarrassing. That's me. Okay, let's look at one with a bunch of names. Bayard, Kimberly, Judith Hellerstein, David Newmark, and Kenneth Trotsky, 2003. Okay, notice that Kimberly's name, her last name comes first, but then in the other authors, their first name comes first. Okay, so this is just one convention that I'd like you to follow for your papers. Their article is called New Evidence on Sex Segregation and Sex Differences in Wages for Matched Employee-Employer Data, in quotes, Journal of Labor Economics, in italics, volume number. Oh, great, it's a special issue, so it doesn't have a number. Here, let's look at this one. Kulkov Christopher and Samer Al-Samari. Okay, this is Samer's first name, 2000, in quotes, in italics, volume number, page numbers. Okay, so this is available to you, right there at the Ooh, where did it go? Oh, never mind. Remember how we got there? We got there through this link, but you can also just go to econ.unm.edu, undergraduate, and then you'll find the Econ Style Guide. Okay, this says, oops, sorry. Read it now. It's required for this week. What I just went through is what you'll need to know. You'll need to know that you need to do in-text citations, the difference between you name the two authors, you do the et al. For the three authors, and the direct quote stuff. You can go back if you want to look at that again.